just get up close and we just mumble into the
mic,
microphone, and then it'll be
talk
okay.
about all kinds of stuff. Close to the phone.
She's got her ears on my titties.
Oh no.
Oh no. Hello, and welcome back to Eternal Ramblings, the show that's not really a show, it's just me talking into a microphone for an hour and a bit. Maybe-ish. Except not today. No. Today is actually have a continuation of last week's show, the anime episode. Before we get on to that, I do have a couple things. Game in the background to this week is Vindictus. I almost said Armello. It is not Armello, it is Vindictus. One of my favorite games from many years ago. It's almost 8 years old. Just about 8 years old. Maybe this October, I believe, is the 8th year. And for such an old game, it really doesn't look that bad. Actually, it looks pretty good. Something suitably anime for this week. The best thing that I have. Anyway, enjoy, and let's move on. A couple things that have gone on with the forum. Hadash and Nemps have actually been making some new posts inside of new topics. Well, new topics, are they new? Not really new, but they've actually been continuing. That was last week, and I missed it because it happened while I was recording, after the recording, but before I got the video out. It did take me some time to actually get the video rendered and sent out. But, you know, that's just the way some things go. That's pretty cool. There has been a lack of activity on the forum as far as roleplay goes. Alternative Earth, I had big hopes for, and that has quieted down quite a bit for a few months. A few months? How many months? Let's go see here. We're looking at, that's not so bad. Everyone else was the beginning of July, and I was the beginning of August, so about a month. That's not too terrible, but it would be really cool to see more people come in and continue their stories. And maybe they'll be able to make use of the new threads that I have put out. I have come up with request a roleplay threads, little topics inside of Alternative Earth, Fantasia, and Onlosheim. I don't think, did I put one in? I believe I did put one in the Modern Tech Roleplay section. It does look like it. These are for people to, either they don't really have time or they don't know how to go about it, but to produce ideas for roleplay that hopefully some other people might be able to pick up and run with. There's really no guidelines on how to use them. No guidelines on what info to give, just whatever you feel like you can give, and hopefully that'll be enough for someone to pick it up and run with it. All that I ask is if you come up with an idea, that you also then participate. It would only be kind of rude if you throw out an idea, someone picks it up and takes the time to run with it, and then no one participates, not even the person who threw out the idea. That would be kind of dickish, wouldn't it? I have put that up. That is in 4 different threads. One in the discussion and planning section of Modern Tech Roleplay, one of them in Fantasia Design, one of them in the Onlosheim OOC area, and another one within Alternative Earth's OOC area. Any of these can be used for their respective areas, and then people can come in, pick out an idea they like, and hopefully we'll see a bit more roleplay. That way people aren't sitting there trying to figure out what they want to do and try to garner support. They already see that someone has an idea that they want to run with but doesn't really have the time or doesn't want to go about, I guess, running it themselves or just making it a solo adventure. Hopefully it'll encourage more interaction. This has been the biggest problem, I think, with modern roleplay, well, any roleplay on the site lately, is that outside of maybe Fantasia and Onlosheim, a lot of the interaction has been solo writing, where everything that people have been putting out is stuff that they've just been writing with themselves. There's not really been too much interaction, and hopefully this will change that. A little bit, maybe. That's the general idea, but I won't keep my hopes up, but it'll be really cool to see more activity happen on the forum and not just in the Discord. Aside from that, can't really say too much has gone on. I am trying to come up with a splash screen, a title card for this video series. Obviously, if you're just listening to it, then you probably won't even care. But something more than the little work in progress or working title screen that I have. It's after 4 installments and no changes. I assume this is what I'm going to keep, what I'm going to stick with it as, Eternal Ramblings, which seems to be fine. Good enough. So why not? We'll stick with it. Aside from that, Brum's been kicking it active in the, at least in the Twitter. I see we have a bit more activity from him. That's cool. Rami's back. Well, he's been back technically a little bit, but he is now actually officially getting his first stationing. So he's actually a big boy adult now, with his big boy job, his big boy career in the military. So good to see him around. Hopefully we'll see more of him after he gets settled in. That'll be really cool to see. Good luck with where you are being stationed. I won't make it public, though it is already public knowledge. Good luck. Good luck, Rami. Good to see you again. Let's move on. I believe we left off... Yeah, I don't really have too much. So I believe we left off with... I was just about to lead into Gundam in the anime discussion with Sal. So let's go ahead. I'll end it here. This was my time on the show. Thank you all for coming in. And if you are a regular listener, or you just really enjoy the rambles, I mean, that would be cool too. Go ahead and hit that like button if you're listening on YouTube. And if you happen to not be listening on YouTube, like it anywhere on the forum. We have a system of liking, right? I thought we did. I don't know what happened to it. Everything kept changing, and then things broke, and then they were fixed, and things changed around, and now we're at the point where I don't know. Anyway, give it a like, subscribe on YouTube to always get the latest from me, if you really care. This will be a continuing, recurring, and consistent series. So, at least you have that to look forward to every week. I will try to get it out Fridays. I try to record on Fridays, but at the very latest I try to get it out and recorded on Sunday of every week. That way I'm not going too long, because if it gets into the week, then oh boy, it's just never going to happen. That's just the way of the work. I've been working 50 to 60 hours a week, and I get home and I actually like to have a life with the person that I've chosen to spend my life with. Thankfully, she's very understanding and actually enjoys the things that I do on my own. Enjoys listening and watching and hearing about it. So I have that going for me. Anywho, let's get on with the show with the anime section. Hope you enjoy, and I will see you at the end. Bye-bye. Gundam Wing. Gundam Wing. Our boys.
Yeah, if you're just getting into Gundam and you're afraid to take on the main timeline, then Wing and Double O both are outside of the main timeline. So for those of you who don't have mech knowledge, Universal Century is the main timeline, and there are dozens of series and video games and manga and everything else set in that one. And then you have a few just random shows where it's like, I like mechs and I like the style of Gundams, but I'm not ready to take that all on yet. So you get Wing, which is in a timeline of its own, and then you have Double O, which is in our own real-life timeline, just AD. So if you want to get into Gundam, but you don't want to take on everything like sort of like us, then start with Wing and Double O because they're fun. I personally have to recommend Double O over Wing. Wing is from the 1990s, and it's definitely silly and cheesy.
Wing came from an era after the anime crash. Well, which, the early 90s, Japan had its stock market crash and its recession, and so there was just no money in anime anymore. All the production money had basically dried up. So they cut a whole lot of corners in the animation, and as opposed to in the 80s when it was a lot more detailed. It's still good. I mean, the opening is good.
The opening is amazing, and I have the song on my playlist right now.
But it does have those 90s tropes that we just started to get out of in the 2000s, where you have frames of stuff repeating while characters are talking. Nothing's actually happening. That sort of still frame, repeating some frames. You have entire scenes that get repeated that flash between these two different things. Like you have Gundams, the Gundam sitting there, the pilots are talking to each other. Literally things are being shot at them. Nothing is hitting, but they're not moving or doing anything. It's just that very much. It's like they went back to the 60s and 70s when there still wasn't money in anime, and yet they had a reason because they hadn't really developed the technology or the skill yet and so you had just like still frames and just a couple moving frames over top of it.
It had a lot of quality scenes, and you can't see me, but I'm making air quotes around quality, being very sarcastic. But it was still a really fun anime. I mean, and if you're not ready to take on the entire Gundam universe, it gives you a good, fun mech anime to watch.
It has very much 90s sci-fi feel. So back then, when you're watching it, or when you were a kid in the early 2000s maybe, and watching it for the first time, it treats itself very seriously because it's ostensibly an anti-war film. Like the whole Gundam franchise is an anti-war film and has very much themes of loss and the meaninglessness of war and all that.
Most Gundams tend to have
pretty much every Gundam series
have a dialogues over war kind of feel to them, like we should talk it out and not just kill each other.
And Gundam Wing is no different, and it takes itself very seriously. But then it's again a 90s anime, and so there are tropes in it. Not just tropes, but just the way it is that you can't take seriously in the current year. It's ridiculous.
To highlight one of the most ridiculous parts to me is the fact that all the protagonists, there are about 5 of them, not including the one female protagonist, are, I'd say 14 or 15-year-old boys.
At the most.
They're, they actually do have varied personalities, which is good. They all have very tropey personalities to me. Like, you can sort of say, oh, this is this trope, and this is this trope. This is the blue Oni, and this is the red Oni, and these are miscellaneous background characters.
Duo and hero are red Oni and blue Oni.
And then you have everyone else. You have the sort of bishi, soft shonen boy, and then you have... No, I was thinking Katra. Katra. I don't know how I'd classify Troa. He's the European.
The European.
And then you'd have Wu Fei, who's just the overly aggressive one.
The overly aggressive Chinese trope that comes from Japan because they don't like Chinese people. So
you have these 5 boys, and I think one of the silliest parts to me that was recurring is the fact that all of them at some point try to, I don't want to say commit suicide, because there's
essentially commit suicide.
There's not that much intent behind it usually, but they just completely overreact and say, oops, got discovered, guess I better blow myself up.
I guess I better blow up myself and my Gundam.
They just completely overreact and say, oh, I got discovered, this is the worst thing that could happen. For those of you who haven't seen it, the Gundams are their mech suits, and they're sort of a secret created by the colonies to go down to Earth and create problems because Earth is being really crappy to its colonies. Humans aren't always
space
great.
Colonies.
Right.
That tends to be an overarching trope for the entire Gundam series.
Because
colonies not happy with how Earth government is treating them.
Historically, the kingdom has never been good to its colonies. Just
basically.
Earth, historically speaking. So,
but
nothing is different in the future.
Yeah, nothing.
But yeah, that was one of the most hilarious parts to me, is just these boys always trying to stoically blow themselves up because of minor inconveniences.
The best part is when Duo tries and fails.
Or when, is it Katra tries to blow himself up and his suit literally just says no. And, dumps him out.
like, oh, I gotta so selflessly sacrifice myself, and his own mobile suit's like, no.
It just opens its hatch and dumps him out of the cockpit. So, yeah, Duo does. He hits his self-destruct button and it just doesn't work. It's just an actual failure. It just doesn't function like it's supposed to. It's pretty great. But my other favorite part is the bok choy.
Ah, yes. What's this? Bok choy.
They're trying to create a diversion, so they're in a I think they're in the spaceship.
It was Hero on his own.
Yeah, in the enemy spaceship, and
he was in one of the colonies, I think, because he had to go and rescue Duo.
That's right.
And so he's having to create a diversion, and they're in this pantry warehouse. Yeah. Essentially, all you see is this guy walking along, and this bok choy floats along in front of him.
Bok choy is a cabbage.
Asian cabbage. And he's like, catches it. He's like, "What this?" And just gets slap chopped on the back of his neck.
Karate chopped in the back of the neck to death.
And then it just zooms in on Hero.
I know you don't like to edit, but we might have to put that at the end of this video, or at least a link to it.
Okay, I'll have to show people. I'll have to show people the bok choy gif.
The bok choy gif is amazing. But anyway, it's really fun. It's really cornball, but it's fun cornball.
It's fantastic. It's still one of my favorites just because...
Relena is a great female character.
Relena is the best Gundam pilot that was never given a Gundam.
She has zero fear, and it makes her absolutely terrifying, even though it's unintentional.
All the other boys are not on Relena's level, where she will literally just face down a Gundam, like, nah, just kill me then.
The fact that Relena never got to pilot the tall geese really upsets me.
Put that girl in that goose.
Because they just kept talking about, the tall geese needs a pilot who's not afraid of anything, and like, Relena does not know how to be afraid. Relena does not ever express fear.
She has no normal human reaction to events that should cause fear.
In spoiler territory, she's the sister of the guy who actually pilots it, so it's an obvious choice. She should have gone in that tall geese.
Yes. So it's like, he's getting in there, and he's like, I'm not sure if I can do this. It's just beyond me. I gotta push myself.
He's physically dying.
Why am I fearful of...
Every time he pilots it, he ends up coughing up blood. Like, it physically harms him to be in the tall geese because his fear holds him back from being his best.
I can't push myself. I need to get better. And both of us are literally just watching this going, put that girl in that goose. Give Relena the tall geese. And no, they never did.
I actually liked pretty much all the female characters in this one. They were all great for different reasons.
Except for Lady Un's.
Okay, Lady Un, they didn't do right by my girl. Lady Un is one of the... She starts off being an antagonist, and they give her a split personality, which doesn't seem to be that uncommon just based on the few Gundams I've seen. There's always one character, at least, who has multiple personalities. They give her a split personality, and their reasoning for doing it is just completely bizarre. It's essentially... She's a warmongering kind of character, and she wants to create war, and she doesn't want to do the dialogues that will lead to peace. But oh no, the boy she likes, he wants to do the dialogues that will lead to peace, and this apparently causes her so much mental distress that she develops a whole other personality, which is portrayed in the weirdest way. So Lady Un normally is just sort of a military type, not too much special about her. She's a little cold and doesn't really emote very much. Oh my gosh, when she gets the split personality, it's just her being all wearing makeup and flowers in her hair.
And her hair is down.
And she even talks in a different voice. She's all sweet like this, and it's just, oh, so nice. I don't know, it's really strange. I have no clue what's going on with that. I still like Lady Un, but they did not do right by her, giving her that dumb personality.
Thankfully, that sort of split personality arc before she resolves it is pretty short. It's only a few episodes.
In the end, she ends up just sort of putting both personalities together and being like a little less warmongering, but still kind of a badass.
Still a badass, but also I'm going to be a badass for peace.
Yeah. But it's really strange the way they handle it, because it also has no warning leading up to it. It's just, suddenly she's super girly, and you think that she's playing the long con, but she's not. She's just this way.
Yeah. That explanation you give is basically what Trey's was saying, and I choose to believe that he's just full of himself, and is actually just very wrong.
That's true, yeah.
But sadly, the series doesn't seem to play out that way. It plays out like, oh no, he's actually right.
Yeah. She just loves me so much.
I just choose to ignore that completely.
Yeah, I agree that the explanation that Lady Un has a split personality is because of this boy, is from the boy himself, so, right, we just choose to believe that, it's just that boy being full of himself. It's like, she changed for me, but unfortunately, he's right, and she's not just playing the long con. But yeah.
Of course not, because it's a 90s anime, and it wasn't that advanced yet, story writing-wise.
I would skip the movie. I don't know. The movie had great animation compared to the show, but otherwise it was.
Yeah, the movie is completely unnecessary because the series wraps up. If you honestly have questions like, but what about the remnants of the things and everything? The movie Gundam Wing Endless Waltz, or maybe it was just Endless Waltz, was completely unnecessary. The antagonist, it does explain maybe a couple things from the anime that weren't explained. Like, maybe a bit more of Troa's story.
Yeah.
Because it focuses around the organization he was part of on the colony before he became a Gundam pilot.
Yeah.
But the main antagonist, the main antagonist I don't think was the little girl. I think it was the big guy that was manipulating her.
Right.
But I have this thing in anime, there are tropes that I cannot stand, and one of them is small children. The other of them is small children that try to act like they aren't small children.
Evil little kids.
Evil little children that try to not act like they are children.
They have the dialogue of a 25-year-old.
They have the diction of someone who is several decades older than they actually are. And it's like, no, you're a small child. You're dumb.
Right.
Do not try to act like you're not dumb.
Even the daughter of a monarch wouldn't speak like she was 20 if she was only 6 years old.
In Bakano, the one kid character has a reason because he's not a kid. Yeah. He's several hundred years old. He's an immortal.
He's just stuck in a kid body.
He's just stuck in a kid body, and he plays off of that because as a kid, when he's pretending to be a kid, he acts like a kid.
And he can get away with a lot as a kid.
Exactly. But no, you have this trope of small kids acting like they aren't kids. And which is actually somehow more annoying than just the annoying small child that doesn't actually have a personality. Their personality is, I'm a dumb small child. Tee-hee, I am either hyper or I am cutesy. And this child tries to be both of these tropes at the same time. And at the very end of the anime, at the very end of this movie, there's a scene where she's at the top of this hill and there's someone else is like holding on to her wheelchair because she got injured in like the final fight. And she's good now. They revealed that she was just being manipulated, so she's good now. And she's still standing at the top of this hill. Not standing, she's in the wheelchair and this other person's holding the wheelchair. And this whole time I'm just going, just let it go. Just push it. Just let her go down that hill.
I think we were actually saying this.
Just let her go down the cliff.
I think we were actually saying this out loud during the scene while we were watching the movie together. We were like, just push her down the hill.
Just push her down the hill.
Just push her down the hill. Just let go.
Just let go. Her whole significance is that she was supposed to be the daughter of Treize Kushvanada, which was one of the antagonists, kind of. The mostly antagonists of the series. And
he was
to the Gundam pilots. I mean, he wasn't evil, but he was one of the antagonists to the Gundams.
He really wasn't evil. He was a very normal monarch type, but he was from a kingdom that still engaged in battle, which made him an enemy, I guess, to the people from the space colonies.
He was part of the Oz organization.
Yeah.
He was one of the leaders, I think.
Yeah.
He was the leader of Oz.
There's a lot of...
there's a lot of alliances and organizations. And
you kind of have to watch it to get the full gist.
Yeah. But no, he was one of the enemies of the colonies. It's just that he wasn't really bad.
He was just doing his job.
An antagonist, you know.
He was kind of just doing his job.
But this little girl was supposed to be his daughter, and both of us are like, no, he never had sex. He never had a child.
I personally don't believe that this man was even straight. I'm pretty sure he plays for the other team. But
I'm fairly certain he just had zero interest in anything sexual.
He's just very flamboyant, so I'm not saying that all gay people are flamboyant, but...
Not flamboyant. not flamboyant's not the right word. It's extra. He's just extra.
Which we call
Which is,
Zextra.
Well, that's Zex. That's a different kind of extra.
But everybody in this anime who is
Everyone
extra
in this
is
anime is
Zextra.
extra. Every character in Gundam Wing is extra to some degree, except for the ladies who are actually down to earth and your favorite characters.
Oh my gosh! So my favorite character was probably Noin.
No, it was Relena. We know this.
I love
second
Relena.
favorite character.
Yeah, Relena's my favorite. I really like Noin. I also really like Hildy, even though she doesn't really get much screen time.
And Sally Poe.
I love Sally Poe. I want Sally Poe and Noin to be a thing. They gave me strong 90s lesbian vibes.
Strong 90s women in anime is just Gundam Wing.
Yeah, so if you want more prequel, though, I would recommend the Frozen Teardrop manga and not the Endless Waltz movie. Because the Frozen Teardrop manga is just 5 little short arcs that gives you the background of all the main boys. So I would just read that. I actually read most of it. I couldn't find a couple of them translated, I think, but...
Was that Frozen Teardrop, or was that
That was-
episode 0? Wasn't Frozen Teardrop the one where, like, the sequel where it's on Mars?
Maybe you're right. Frozen Teardrop might be the sequel where they're adults.
The manga sequel where they're on Mars and
That might
everyone's
be
adults. And Duo has a child.
Named Duo.
Duo Maxwell has a child called Duo Maxwell. It's like, boy.
He didn't name the child, to be fair. He got Hildy pregnant and effed off to space or something.
Boy, you can't just get that girl pregnant while you're wearing your priest getup. Actually, maybe you can. I guess it is pretty topical. Ew.
Oh. Yeah, you might be right. I might have the names backwards. Anyway, there is a prequel manga, and if you want backstory, just read that instead. The movie, I mean,
Yeah,
you kind of only get a glimpse at Troa's background.
I guess just look up Gundam Wing episode 0.
Yeah.
That's all that I can remember of what it might be if you want some backstory. But really, you don't need it. But if you want more detailed backstory, because they kind of touch on everyone's backstory during the anime itself.
Right, and they're pretty much all what you'd expect. It's all they have somebody to avenge.
Everybody's an orphan.
Yeah, that's just a Gundam thing.
War orphans. They saved the universe. Who knew?
Yeah. But I mean, Wing is fun. Wing is a fun anime. It's dorky, like I said. It's super cornball. It's very 90s, very dated, but it's fun.
Hooray for child soldiers.
Yeah. Double O is just a darker version of Wing, so...
Yeah.
But it's a little heavier in terms of the subjects.
Sergei.
Sergei is the best papa.
Sergei is my father.
Sergei is everyone's father, and I choose to believe that he'll come back in the new content that's coming out soon.
He didn't die. He ejected from his suit.
You didn't see him die, so it means he didn't die.
That is the trope of this entire series. If you do not actually see them die, they will bring back the character.
His Tyrion
except
might have
for
blown
Sergei.
up. His Tyrion might have blown up, but it doesn't mean that he was in it.
It is both a blessing and a curse because now we get to pretend Sergei is alive.
So Double O is basically the same thing. Like I said, Double O is the one that's actually set in real world timeline, but it's 300 years in the future. The main thing with this one is there's no more fossil fuels. So there's some solar energy, and the entire human race is dependent on this solar energy, which means that countries who relied on fossil fuels for money, like the entirety of the Middle East, basically, is kind of SOL. And on top of the solar energy, there are space elevators or orbital elevators. 3 of them. I think there's one in Africa, one in North America, and one in Asia, maybe, or Europe. I'm not sure. Eurasia, somewhere over there. So these things have multiple levels, and their entire purpose is to go up to space, and the ring of solar panels is connected to them, or some such. There are like shopping malls on the lower levels. Anyway, they bring in a lot of income through tourism and also through the solar energy trade. So people want these, but not everybody got one. So your main characters, again, are young men, but not quite as young.
Thankfully, they're actually like some in their 20s, even mid-20s. Whoa.
Yeah, so I think the youngest one at the start of this series is, I don't know, sets in as maybe 15 or 16, but...
Maybe 16, I'd say.
16, probably,
he
but...
He can't drink alcohol, he only drinks milk.
He only drinks milk.
Milk drinker.
So, Very similar plot. It's just got a darker, more serious tone, I guess, in that they're pushing more for peace.
Through terrorism.
Yeah, so they're actually terrorists, and the series calls them this. The main characters are all terrorists because they do acts of terrorism, but they only target things like military bases. They don't target civilians. So anytime that somebody tries to do any sort of warmongering or start a battle somewhere, they have what they call an intervention, where they go in their Gundams and they blow everything up. So the whole world kind of unites, which is their plan. They want the world to unite. They unite around getting rid of the Gundams. So it works. But with Double O, the first season is great. It kind of loses the purpose, I feel, of the series in season 2. And then the movie, I choose to pretend never existed.
Season 2 is necessary. It's not like you can drop season 2, because season 2 wraps up the series, because after the first season, the world is united, but they're united against the Gundams. And a little bit of spoiler, the Gundams are basically defeated at the end of the first season, which means that whole world alliance falls apart. The whole purpose of these Gundams is to unite the world for, to quote the series, the talks that are to come with essentially an alien race, which is the whole plot of the movie. Well, the events of the first season don't cause that. Sure, they unite, but they unite in a way where they're not really together. They're just fighting for the purpose of getting rid of these Gundams so that they can just go back to the status quo after that and fight against each other again. So the second season sets up events where, no, this actually has to draw a conclusion. The world actually has to unite as one. And they kind of are. At the end of the first season, the world kind of is united. The three main alliances have kind of joined into one world government.
But it's kind of a dictatorship.
Yeah,
so.
It's basically a dictatorship where you have them oppressing these people that don't want to join this one world government.
Because surprisingly, opportunistic people will always use the opportunity to be opportunistic.
Exactly.
Now you have somebody who's an even bigger bad than, the Gundams were. The Gundam organization is called Celestial Being. So you have something that's worse than Celestial Being now, because instead of just, oppressing people by attacking military bases, you have somebody who says, hey, we have something that'll destroy the entire world, and if you tick us off, we'll use it on you. It'll take out your country in seconds.
Yeah, but it's the government itself.
Yeah.
The one world government itself has these weapons, but it's part of this military organization that's basically almost separate from that government. The government is almost secondary to this military group. Right. It's basically this one world democratic government is turning into a military dictatorship, where this one military organization, this one branch of this military, is essentially taking over using their superior firepower to basically dictate terms to all the people who don't want to be part of this one world government, and also essentially dictating terms to the democratic government just because they have the military power. The actual sort of standing army doesn't get the same preferential treatment or the same advanced weaponry, and that causes problems of its own, where the two branches of essentially this one world government's army fight each other over this. So I get it's not as strong because the story itself isn't as strong. I don't feel. You probably have better criticisms than I do.
I think the second season gets bogged down a lot in
the political intrigue, mostly. I guess.
I was going to say character development.
Really?
Yeah, I always felt like it would focus on one character at a time and sort of go through their arc, and then it would go back to like another character and go through their arc. I mean, there was sort of the Alleluia and Marie arc, and then there was sort of Tieria finding out, he was the part of that group arc, and it would just jump from arc to arc, and it was kind of there was a lot of focus on Louise and Saji, and I mean I think it just got bogged down in a lot of more interpersonal conflict than the global conflict at large, even though you had all this stuff going on.
See, I didn't see that so much. The main criticism I had with character arcs was you had Princess Ismail.
Yeah.
Who, after a certain point, should not have been relevant, but they kept trying to make her into a Relena-type figure and bringing her back and basically making entire episodes almost focused on her. And it's like, why? She does nothing. She sings with children at this point. Why are you making an entire episode between her and Setsuna, or even just her? There was no point to this. It just... Anything that focused on her bogged it down. And I get you could make it maybe a scene where... Because she's the one that's trying to, like, oh, we gotta have peace and all this. Trying to make her this Relena Peacecraft character that she wasn't. She wasn't the accidental badass of Relena, and also she didn't do anything. Relena was actually out there putting herself forward and in danger, trying to achieve peace. And
Marina was just kind of an idiot.
Marina was just hiding with children, making songs and submitting them to the radio.
Yeah, somehow they got on the radio.
And they got on the radio, even though she's part of this resistance organization that should have been outlawed. I don't know.
I always just assumed that Cateron got it on the radio somehow. I don't know how it happened.
I don't know. But yeah, her, and anytime it would cut to her, I'm like, why? We're wasting time. Go to back to the boys.
Yeah, I think that Marina was almost an unachievable ideal for Setsuna, and I think that's why that she had to exist. But I agree that she, in and of herself, was not a strong character.
I didn't mind her existing, but having literally an entire episode or two devoted to events going on around her when nothing was going on around her.
I think almost in a way they were unachievable goals for one another. She wanted to be able to be as proactive and strong as Setsuna, but she felt weak and like she was unable to do anything.
Because she actually was weak.
Because she was, fair. And then I think Setsuna wished that he could be almost like as peaceful as she was and to understand how to solve things in ways that were as peaceful as she did. But in the end, they were just kind of, they realized that they didn't really need to be one another. They just were two sides of something that was necessary to achieve what they were both going for. So I understand why she was necessary, but I agree, on her own and in those episodes that were more like centered around her, they bogged down everything because she never really did anything. She kind of just relied on Shirin to do everything for her. And when Shirin joins Cateron, then she's not around anymore, then,
Every episode with Marina in it was, like, any scene with Marina in it was, oh man, peace. What if peace happened? What if we could all just be peaceful and happy together? And it's like, yeah, we get it. The first time, good. The second time, okay. But when you're down to 5, 6, 7, 8 times, it's like, oh my god, we get it?
Right.
We know what you're about. And I get Setsuna coming back to it as he develops as a character and reconciles the whole need for peace with the need to fight for peace. Like, the desire for peace with the need to fight, which...
Right.
But her entire existence was to say the same thing over and over and over again in the second season. And in the first one, you at least had her in a political capacity.
Yeah.
Where she was the leader of her nation, and she was staunchly against warfare. She was staunchly a pacifist. And it's like, okay, she was relevant.
Right.
She was carrying this message, which made her dangerous, about, we're not going to fight for this crap. Mm-hmm. But why can't we have all these peaceful organizations, why aren't they doing their job?
And for background, Princess Marina Ismail is from a fictional kingdom called the Kingdom of Azatistan, which is not, but is definitely Iran. Or I'm pretty sure it's Iran.
Yeah, because the other one that they obliterated with the canon in the second season was Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. So they don't like to name some
because
of the...
you don't want to name anyone in the Middle East, otherwise you might cause
There are a lot of
bombs.
all this is set on Earth, and it's set on our real Earth, and there are three main factions, which are essentially North America and Japan and Europe and China, Russia, India.
The Union is all of the Americas and also like Oceania all the way through to Australia, and you also got Japan. Then you have the Human Reform League, which is Russia, China, that sort of Middle Asia,
India, and everything in between.
Yeah, and then you have the Advanced European Union, which is the European Union, which also basically claims dominion over Africa.
Right. So you have real nations. They're in these factions, but you have real nations. But the Middle East is all...
all of them are real nations that are mentioned, except... very conspicuously, none of the Middle Eastern nations are the correct names.
Right. So your main character is Setsuna. His real name is Soren, and he's from the Middle East. And they don't give his country a real name, but you're sort of like, well,
he's definitely Kurdish.
Yeah, yeah. And then Marina Ismail is from Azerbaijan, which is totally not, but definitely is Iran. So that part is always a little strange, but. Yeah, I mean, I get it. It came out in 2008, so they
2007, 2008.
It was still pretty fresh, everything that was going on over there. So I think they were just trying not to tick anybody off.
The creator was literally all. They approached him like, "Hey, make a Gundam for us." And he's like, "Sure, but I only know like Iraq." The Iraq War.
Right, the guy that they approached...
make it so. So it's basically Iraq War, the Gundam show.
The guy they approached to make the series really didn't know too much about the Universal Century timeline, so he just made something set in our actual modern day... Well, not modern day, because it's futuristic, but our actual Earth timeline.
He didn't really watch any Gundam? He didn't know Gundam?
Yeah, basically.
So and there's parallels to Wing and other such stuff where it's very obvious that he did his... He was like, okay, I gotta make a Gundam, let me watch some Gundam to see what I should do. And they're like, okay, there are these themes that I gotta touch on. And there are very clearly Gundam tropes from certain Gundam series that appear in 00. And you're like, yep, that's supposed to be Relena, but fails at it. Among other things, there's... Yeah, I don't even know. There's just so many tropes that appear. From Gundam that didn't need to be there, but he included because it's Gundam and they have to have those tropes. It's obvious you're going to have in any Gundam the anti-war message.
Right, that's the purpose.
That's the purpose of Gundam.
Of Gundam in general.
But
even the Universal Century stuff.
Especially the Universal Century stuff, because you get to see like the horrors of war in a very much World War II, but definitely not World War II setting. These are the fascists, but they're not fascists, right?
And this was sort of the same thing, except for it was the war in the Middle East and not World War II. This was more of a modern take.
Exactly, which probably made it better than some of the older Gundams, because it was much more of a modern tale. The anti-war war story is, a staple of war stories anyway, but they're always taking inspiration from, very clearly taking inspiration from the events of World War II, where you have this democratic governments who have their own sort of pretty shitty acts, but also these fascists who are very definitely doing shitty acts. So which one is good? Neither of them, because war sucks.
Yeah. That's sort of like how 00, you realize there's no good guys. You're either rooting for the terrorists or you're rooting for the people who are oppressing everybody in the colonies in the Middle East and Africa. So I mean,
you're either rooting for the terrorists or you're rooting for these people who are committing political intrigues to gain power for themselves in this three-way, not really a war, but
it's a Cold War.
It's definitely a Cold War between the three alliances. Except for the European Union, as always, is slightly irrelevant to the other two.
Right. And fun fact about 00, definitely Mutti Angela Merkel is...
Angela Merkel.
There's a character in 00 who looks exactly like Angela Merkel, and if you watch it, you'll see her. I don't remember if she's in the first season or the second season or both, but I think she's in the first season because she's primarily with the AEU, the Advanced European Union, and they're not so relevant in season 2.
And there is definitely Obama in the second season.
There is definitely Obama in the second season, so it's great. You just watch it for the little appearances of people who you're like, oh, this is what Japan thinks exactly.
Leading the one world nation.
So stuff like that was fun, but yeah, I mean, I like 00. I liked the movie was crap. I liked
the movie's trash. I'm not even going to talk about it. Don't watch it.
What Separalis was mentioning, the main plot was that that humanity has to evolve for the dialogues that are to come. They take that very literally, and there's actually a different stage of human evolution that is touched on in 00. So they learn to communicate via other ways than through just spoken language and written language, which is necessary because in the movie there are aliens from Jupiter that come, and they're messing things up on Earth, and it's no good, and we try to fight them, but they're very great at adapting to what we are doing, and they can just replicate our weapons super easily. It was crap, the movie, but the one thing that I did like is that the aliens aren't just green humans. I think the aliens are exactly what I want to see in an alien movie or an alien series. They're kind of a metallic, almost bacteria colony. So they operate, they're individual organisms, but they operate much like a bacteria colony in that they can all sort of change their body chemistry to perform a singular task. So instead of just you being made up of a bunch of different cells that create one organism, I mean, that's slightly different than saying a bunch of humans forming into a big blob to achieve something. So I appreciated that fact when you look at something like Macross Frontier and you just have green aliens that are just
green
humans.
Aliens that are tall.
It's just humans that are green and have antenna, you know? Like, that's not an alien. So I like that fact. There's really nothing else about the movie that I liked other than some of the choreography of some of the battle scenes, but some of that was a little too shaky and jarring and makes you a little motion sick.
It was too quick, even.
It was very quick.
You don't focus on anything. Everything's moving around, dodging this way and that, and everything's flying around.
There's a lot of neon flashes against the black background, so I mean, it's a lot to look at.
The main criticism of the story is that it should have been a miniseries.
Yeah.
They tried to do too much with the movie, and nothing was achieved story-wise other than, hey, this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and this happened.
I think it sort of reveals what they were talking about with the, this is the dialogues that are to come. But I agree, it didn't necessarily need to be a movie, and it was recently revealed, because this show just had its 10th year anniversary, that there's going to be new content, and nobody's exactly sure what that means yet, but we're pretty sure it's new animated content, so whether that's an OVA or whether that's a new anime series, I'm not sure, but there have been some promotional illustrations and stuff released, so unfortunately, some stuff that happens in the movie has definitely been adopted into canon for the new upcoming content. If you see the movie and you see the promo content, it's really obvious, so unfortunately, the movie is canon. I wish it wasn't. But, you know, whatever. I guess I expected that they wouldn't create the whole movie and they just say, oops, didn't happen, so.
I wish that was happening.
But otherwise, 00's good. Don't bother with the movie unless you plan on watching the new upcoming content. But I think 00's pretty good. It's the first season especially is a good take on modern war. I like that they use the mech suits as weapons and not just as sort of like cool magical flying robots.
Yeah, it's not the they've gotten fully, well, they had a while ago, but it's not the hero robot anime that it started out being. Not nearly the hero robot anime. They are weapons of war and they look like weapons of war. They're not flashy for the sake of being flashy, except for Tieria's suit, which has hair for absolutely no reason.
Because she's a beautiful girl.
Because she's a beautiful girl who don't need no man.
Inside a fat girl.
Inside of a fat girl, there's always just a beautiful girl just waiting to bust out. There's inside of every fat girl with lasers in her knees is just a beautiful girl with long flowing hair. Mm-hmm. Who will take over your mech suit.
Mm-hmm. And have a bazooka.
Just a giant bazooka. More girls need giant bazookas.
So just remember, every fat girl has a bazooka inside her.
Yeah, they look like weapons of war.
The Tierans are my favorite.
Not even just the Gundams. I mean, the Gundams look like Gundams. They're always going to look like Gundams. But say, if you look at Gundam Wing, they look like remnants of the big hero robot anime era, where they're very humanoid. They have heads.
Wings.
And they are very humanoid, not just in like having, oh look, I have legs and arms and a head. No, they look like human figures just in mech armor, you know? But in Double O, while they're still humanoid of shape with legs and arms and a head, they're very much weapons of war. And they're very distinctive from each other, each of the different faction suits.
I always found that part interesting.
And actually, I think the flag fighters, they don't really have a head so much.
They do, but they're all very differently shaped, which that's like goes back to what you were saying. It's interesting how the American Union sort of makes a suit that's completely different to how the European suits look compared to how the Russian suits look. So
yeah, and you have like the other factions where they have like other mobile suits that aren't as advanced. It's kind of low budget stuff, and they just look like mech warrior suits. They're very much completely utilitarian weapons of war, where there is no head. There is an arm and the arm is a gun, and there's legs that they chicken walk around on. And
not every battle takes place in mech suits, which I think is interesting, at least in some of the flashbacks anyway. Like, you have Jihad, which is your traditional Jihad, child fighters going out with machine guns and Uzis.
Against mech suits.
Against mech suits. And, losing, because it's children with an Uzi against a mech suit. So,
yeah.
It's definitely, it gives you more the feel that it's sort of that grimy, gritty war story than just like a, fighting without repercussions. Like, even when you see background characters die, they're usually not picking them off in droves as if they're just completely super overpowered to the point of nobody else stands a chance against them. I mean, even when you see them taking on faceless enemies from, whichever faction, they'll be in 1-versus-1 fights and slowly have to pick them off because they're of comparable strength, especially after these Gundam designs sort of get out and all the rest of the people who aren't Celestial Being are able to replicate them somewhat. They're able to replicate the energy drives that power them, and that makes the rest of the world a lot more formidable against the Gundam pilots. So I like that part of it, just that they're not so overpowered that they can just, sort of shoot a single spray of bullets and take out a bunch of armors all at once.
Yeah, and it very much has that, even when the Gundams were so vastly superior to anything anyone else had on Earth, they still recognize that, hey, when you get enough of someone, they're going to hit you, and getting hit is going to hurt regardless of what weapon they got.
And the Gundams were only vastly overpowered for like 3 episodes before one of the factions would come up with something that was stronger, so...
Yeah, they're very much in this arms race to try and match the Gundams, and they never come as close to being as powerful as a Gundam individually, but they come up with tactics and ways to neutralize the advantages of the Gundams because they recognize they couldn't straight up in a one-on-one fight take on a Gundam. So, but even then you'd have other Gundam series where it's a Gundam and the Gundam is...
Excuse me.
You okay?
I sneezed.
You sneezed. And the Gundam is, just shooting droves of them down. Well, you don't have that in Double O.
Yeah. So I like that part of it.
They were very much human, and the conflict was human, and every battle could be like, oh, they could actually lose this if they mess up too much.
And they do, actually. Main characters die, and main characters get captured, and like we said toward the beginning of this part of the ramble, their entire organization falls apart between season 1 and season 2. So I always like that in a series when the main character is not infallible. I like when the main characters can die or lose or whatever. That's always nice to see.
It's always nice to see people die and lose.
Well, it makes them more human and more relatable, and it's boring to watch a series, honestly, where the main character wins every single time. Ash Ketchum.
No, he loses.
Yeah,
Don't you remember when he loses sometimes?
Rarely, yeah.
Rarely.
But
that's another series we need to get into, the new Pokemon that actually has good animation, and it's not just a relic of the 90s.
I started to watch the one that was being posted online, but I don't remember what that was called anymore. But it was very much in the style of the games. Like, you had Red, you didn't have Ash, you had Red.
Oh, yeah? Cool.
Yeah, there was a online one a couple years ago. Anyway, Gundam, yeah, Gundam's good.
Gundam's good.
Some Gundam better than other Gundam.
All Gundams are good.
Now we have
except
kits.
Igloo.
We got kits that we need to build.
Yeah, I still have my exam unit, Blue Destiny Unit 3 sitting down there that I haven't touched, haven't even opened.
I have a tall geese to build.
You have a tall boy.
I do. The tallest geese.
The tallest of the goose.
So, what else did we want to ramble about with anime?
I don't know. We talked about it before coming up here. Just like, oh man, we got to talk about this and this and this.
I know that one of the things I was going to ask you.
Guilty pleasure anime.
Yeah, guilty pleasure anime. So I've been thinking about this. And I honestly haven't watched that many anime, I feel like. But if I had to pick a guilty pleasure anime, gosh, I think still what I keep coming back to, if not Wing, because Wing was honestly fun garbage, but it was still garbage, then I really liked the filler of Naruto way better than I liked the actual plot of Naruto. So honestly, I'd probably say that. I know everybody gives the filler a hard time, but I honestly think that the actual plot of Naruto is trash. I actually think that I like Naruto, the character Naruto, not the series at large, but the character Naruto is compelling to me because here's this little kid who has a dream and it's like everybody is against him, and it's not his fault that he has, the limitation that he has of like having whatever demon inside him, whatever, it's not his fault. And if he didn't have it inside him, then everyone would be dead, basically, because this thing would have rampaged and killed everyone in their village. But nobody seems to appreciate that fact, that this little kid, by taking on this huge burden, saved all of them, But I hate Sasuke, and most of Naruto is about Sasuke, and so I don't like most of Naruto. However, in the filler, and I'm not talking about Shippuden or Shippuden or whatever, because I didn't watch it, because I got really bored with it. But in the original part of Naruto, after Sasuke goes away, you have like 100-some episodes of filler that are Sasuke free, and I love them, and they're so great, because I actually really like the side characters a lot. Like, I love Lee, and like, cool, here's an episode where Lee just gets super drunk and is like really great at hand-to-hand, like better than usual, just because he's drunk, and I love that. And it's like focuses on like, here's an episode where all the moms team up and like take on somebody, and I love that. I think it's great. I just love when side characters get backstory. Like, that's one of my favorite parts of anime, is like, I typically like side characters or secondary characters almost always more than I like primary characters. Like, sometimes there's a main protagonist that I'll love, but usually it's a side character that's my favorite. So Naruto, the filler arcs, I know they're dumb. I know that they had zero bearing on the canon. But, like, if there's an episode where Hinata can become just a little bit badass and it makes me hate her just a little bit less, even if, it didn't ever actually translate into whatever happens in Shippuden, like, that's okay. I can still say, well, maybe she would have had potential if this whole series hadn't been about, like, let's bring back this one dude who hates us all, but we like him still for some reason. So, probably my guilty pleasure. I really like the fillers.
Let's all die to bring back this one guy who hates us all.
Yeah, I just don't like Sasuke. I don't like how everybody loves Sasuke. They're like, he's our friend, but, like, he's not. He doesn't do a single nice thing for anyone the entire time that he's there.
He has no really redeemable qualities.
He doesn't. His whole driving thing is like, I have to avenge my family, which, fine, it's noble, whatever. Go kill your brother, but I don't understand why that means he has to be a jerk to everyone who's trying to help him. I don't get that. Like, I know that the kid is probably messed up because he saw a lot of messed up things, but I don't get why, like, you have people who are on your side, and you're pushing them aside, and for some reason they still like you. And I don't know. I just don't get that part. And I know that I've read before that the creator of Naruto wanted the show to be about Sasuke primarily, but basically he had already branded it Naruto and published it as Naruto before he decided that, and well, oops, guess it's gotta be about Naruto now. I don't know if that's true, but I'm pretty sure I've read that, so even if it's not true, it seems like that's what he was going for, so that would be my guilty pleasure. I mean, I've tried to think of other things that are just not good, objectively not good anime, like bad animation, bad writing. But really, when it's a show like that, I just quit it after a few episodes in. Like, I think I'm okay at recognizing when not just anime is a bad anime, but when any kind of consumable media is just bad media. Like, I don't watch bad movies all the way through. I don't except for sometimes when I watch, Lifetime Movie Channel movies, just so I can pick them apart while I have a glass of wine. That's always fun. But I don't watch bad anime all the way through. Like, I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm probably not gonna watch Excel Saga all the way through, because I don't think it's a good anime.
I don't blame you.
But yeah, I mean, I vaguely remember kind of liking Tokyo Mew Mew back in high school, and I don't think that was good. It was your typical transforming magical girl anime, but everybody had cat ears and the animation was wonky, and I don't know. I kind of remember liking it, but also I don't remember at all what it was other than just a knockoff of Sailor Moon, so I don't think I can really count that one. So my guilty pleasure anime is the filler arcs of the original Naruto. What is yours?
Oh gosh, see, I'm looking through my old list of anime because I actually have a list of things that I've watched and stuff that I've not finished because I can't be bothered or because I started but got on other things and never came back to it. Oh boy. In general, my guilty pleasure is stuff that's definitely not aimed towards me. Like series that are definitely supposed to be for an audience that is not me. Sort of the My Little Pony effect, where it's supposed to be for little girls, but it's a bunch of middle-aged dudes.
What's that, shoujo? I think it's shoujo.
Shoujo?
Anime?
I don't know.
The female version of shonen?
I guess. The female version of anime for little boys.
Yeah.
God, I don't know, because I'm looking at stuff like, where'd it go? Like Haibane Renmei, that I finished and actually liked, even though it's definitely for little Japanese girls. Shoot. Golly, I don't know. My guilty pleasure, out of everything on this list of stuff that I've watched or stuff that I know I've watched, I mean, what would be the definition? Stuff where I like it, but I would be embarrassed to let other people show it to my parents?
It's just something that you really enjoyed, but it's just bad storytelling or bad art or just dumb dialogue. Just, it was objectively bad, but you still enjoyed it.
See, that's the thing where you came up and, there's Pet Shop of Horrors on here, which kind of qualifies because it's 13 individual horror stories, or not really horror, but suspense stories. See, I have that thing where you said where if it's something bad, I don't finish it. If it's a bad movie, I don't have a problem walking away from something that doesn't have my attention.
We can go with your definition then.
So I have to be engaged in some respect, which I guess you can be engaged in something, realize it's bad, but still have something that's so bad it's good. But even then, it's like anything that's so bad it's good has already been like, oh man, you gotta watch this. It's so bad, but it's so good.
I can give you an example that's not anime, maybe.
That
would be helpful.
I mean, the only thing that I would have would be Mobile Suit Gundam Wing, which is so bad, but it's also just so good. But that's not really a guilty pleasure, I would think, because it actually has redeemable qualities on its own when you get past the things that are so bad.
We can go with your definition then, things that you just wouldn't tell your parents about or whatever.
I enjoyed Excel Saga when I was a kid, but coming back to it, there's still stuff about it that I like, but it's not really something that I would ever say I really enjoy the anime itself for now. Ouran High School Host Club, I still enjoy as a grown adult. Do you need to sneeze?
Yeah.
You need to sneeze. Poor Beb. Alright, you can sneeze. All good?
All good.
All good. Feel better?
Yeah.
Golly, I know I'm just shooting off names. I enjoyed Full Metal Alchemist, not Brotherhood, but the original, which I know is blasphemy to most people that watch anime and are telling me, how can you like Brotherhood over Full Metal? Mainly because I enjoy anime that respect my time and don't go on for doing too much that I don't care about. It's like I enjoy things that tell a story. They have a story to tell, and then they tell that story. I don't need my anime to follow some manga or other series completely and fully and accurately. I just need it to tell me a good story and respect my time. 50 or 60 episodes is okay, but because Full Metal Alchemist was the first one that I knew of, and I never read the original source material, I don't care that it doesn't follow the source material. I don't really have too many questions. I really just don't have too many questions that other people apparently had, that I don't recognize that it was missing so much backstory on certain secondary characters. I don't care if certain secondary characters don't have their complete and total backstory told to me. They're secondary freaking characters. And yeah, I mean, I get it. There are other stories where it's like, man, I wish I knew more about this character, but also I respect that you didn't go into this other character because you had a story to tell and you told that story. So I don't begrudge stories that don't tell me everything about every character in the series. But I mean, that's not really a guilty pleasure. Unless
Maybe you just don't have one.
I guess I don't really have a guilty pleasure, something that I know is objectively bad that I still enjoy, because stuff that I enjoyed back when I was a kid, stuff I enjoyed a decade ago, I don't really enjoy still. I really don't enjoy them nowadays. Like the whole Tenchi Muyo series, Tenchi in Tokyo, Tenchi Universe, Tenchi GXP. I watched all of those and I enjoyed them 10 years ago. But it's harem anime, but also not, because it's not about him wanting these girls. It's about these girls wanting him, and he's like, God, no, please, just stop. And also it's mixed in with a whole bunch of Monster of the Day stuff. It's like, oh, here's some bad dudes and you gotta save the earth, but also here's these alien girls that want to get with this dude. But yeah, I don't care about that anymore.
Okay, so maybe instead of that question, since maybe you just don't have one, that's cool. You're like me, you just give up if it sucks. What about, I know one of the things we talked about was, what's an anime that everybody else seems to like, but that you just couldn't get into?
I mean, I got a whole list of unfinished series here. I could rattle them off. Attack on Titan, Bleach. Man, we need to finish Bobobo. Code Gay Ass. I really don't care about it. Durarara, everyone loved it. People who like Durarara for some reason don't like Baccano, and I'm completely the opposite. I just can't get into it. Eureka 7, a whole bunch of stuff that appeared on Toonami when we were kids that I just didn't care about. It's like, I don't even know why I didn't like Eureka 7. I think it was just that one girl character with no eyebrows that was just annoying because I can't stand that kind of personality. And yet, like, half the episode revolves around her and Red Oni Kid. Gundam Seed. Everyone, for some reason, likes Seed, and I hate it. Which I'll have... Of course, my introduction to Seed was from a while ago when I was much younger, and maybe I'll get into it. Maybe I'll watch it and get into it. Is that in the Universal Century timeline?
Seed?
Seed.
I think so.
So we're going to have to get to it eventually.
Yeah, we can ignore it.
No, it's okay.
Chara is dead, then it's fine.
No, it's okay. yeah, there's it's just a whole bunch. Brotherhood. I get that Brotherhood follows the manga, and I apparently don't like the manga because I don't like Brotherhood.
I feel like that was probably
Full Metal Alchemist.
I feel like that's probably the biggest one on your list.
The biggest one on my list that everyone's like, "Oh, this is great." And
yeah.
like, is it? Because you have another little child that talks like an adult and is being evilly evil, and that's a trope that I can't stand. And yet he plays a massive role as an antagonist.
That was one of the homunculi or whatever.
I like. I think so. I can't remember. Is that Pride? Did they change Pride?
I never saw
I can't
either
remember.
of them.
I tried to put it out of my mind. The whole fact that the entire freaking world is a transmutation circle. That it's like the fact that it's a transmutation circle that's going to bring down the moon.
F the moon.
F the moon, guys. I don't know. Is the moon a transmutation circle? See,
anything
there's
that's
so
a
many
circle
things.
is a transmutation circle. They only have square pizzas in this universe.
They only have square pizzas. Otherwise, they might, transmute the pizza in your face.
You know those school lunch pizzas? That's why they're always square, so the kids can't transmute things.
Yeah, I hate Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood for reasons that I don't even remember because it's been so long since I've tried it, and I just didn't like it.
That's definitely the biggest one on your list.
Bleach would be the biggest one.
Yeah.
Naruto in general.
Well, in terms of actual size of the series, yeah, those are the biggest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they were the biggest ones 10 years ago when these were coming out. Naruto, I just don't like it because I like things that respect my time nowadays.
Yeah.
Back when I was younger, I didn't mind it, but I don't like Bleach because it doesn't respect my time. I don't like Naruto because it doesn't respect my time. I don't need hundreds and hundreds and literally hundreds of episodes, 500 episodes without filler of story. That's too much. And now I'm not going to watch all of that.
Now with Naruto, if you count Boruto, whatever, then you have even more.
Do you have a story to tell? Then tell the story. And I get having like sequels. It's like, oh, this is a series. What do you want?
Our cat's gonna scream now.
Our cat has determined that it is time to scream and end the episode.
She used her litter box and now she feels great. She's letting us know.
Oh, absolutely.
And she's eating cardboard.
That's what she does. She eats cardboard and screams.
Say hi.
But yeah, that's basically it. Apparently anything that has to do with any large series that doesn't wrap up. Because apparently the manga didn't wrap up. So they can't, for some reason, draft an anime with a story. I don't... to me, there's a difference between having a story arc and having a story. You can have multiple arcs within a single story, but if you don't wrap up that story, then you're not done. And an anime that keeps going is like a guy talking into a microphone for 2.5 hours who doesn't know how to end it. And Naruto, Bleach.
The super long ones.
The super long animes that everyone says are great. One Piece was just trash in general. Is that on my list? For some reason, I do not have that on my unfinished series list.
Did you finish it?
Oh, heck no. I would never finish One Piece. I think I put it out of my mind.
Yeah.
Because the animation and the story and everything about it is actually trash, and I'm going to fight anyone who says otherwise.
Meet me at Corn Graveyard.
Meet me at Corn Graveyard for a beatdown.
Catch these fists.
Catch these fists with your face. Golly, that's a good smelly poo that you made, Lila. Yeah. I don't think there's any specific anime that is guilty pleasure or something that I just don't like that other people like. I mean, I've listed some names, but
I think
as an adult with limited time who's working almost 60 hours a week, I I just don't like both anime and I guess also video games at this point that don't respect my time.
Any media, really.
Anything that doesn't respect my time, I just can't get into it. So
I really don't like Attack on Titan anymore. The more I think about it, the more I really don't like it. I like the original concept, and I like the first few episodes, and that it's about these giant creatures that are basically indefeatable that come out of seemingly nowhere, and not knowing how many of them there are in the world, and not knowing whether there are any other humans in the world. I love that concept, and I love that sense of sort of loneliness that it created. And Lila likes it too. But the more it went on, the less it became about that original concept, and the more it became about almost political intrigue. And I don't like political intrigue stories. I don't like kings and knights and people trying to take the throne. I don't like that. That sort of story just bores me. It's not my thing. And that's what Attack on Titan really seemed like it became after a while. Plus, I feel like everybody's like, oh, it's so gory, and you know, there's so much where they're just showing, you know, how much people are suffering. But to me, you never see that. Nobody ever seems traumatized by anything that happens. Like, Aaron's mom gets eaten in front of him when he's, 10 or 11 or something like that. He's fine. I mean, he's not fine. He obviously has some emotional issues, but, you know, nobody, and I get that you can't progress the story if everybody's cowering, shivering all the time. But nobody's like that, and I think that's the part that gets me. And I guess you're following the people who are more proactive about their, about the pain and the trauma they've suffered, as opposed to, you know, the people who aren't in the military. But, I don't know, it wasn't realistic to me. Like, I never felt any sort of impending sense of danger or anything like that, because as soon as you find out that Aaron's a Titan, it's like, well, they're never in danger ever again. Aaron will just go Titan, and then it's as the series goes on, and I quit. I don't even know when I quit. I don't remember what was happening. They were out in the woods, in that whole part where they were, like, cleaning that random little cabin in the woods or whatever. I stopped there somewhere, both in the anime and in the manga. I've read the synopsis on Wikipedia about what happens after that, and I'm glad I stopped, because it just becomes political intrigue, and it sounds really boring, but, yeah, it just, after everybody, it's revealed that everybody's a Titan. It's like, well, then nobody's ever in danger. Everybody can just become their own Titan and save themselves. And it's just, I don't know. To me, nothing seems like it to have any gravity after that point, I guess. So I don't like Attack on Titan. More recently, I really don't like Darling in the Franxx, which kind of sucks, because I love that animation style. I think it's pretty. Like, yeah, it's got some wonky animated bits.
It's Pacific Rim, but the girls are controllers, and you stick your crotch in their butt.
Yeah, the girls' butts have handles, and you just grab their butts, and I think that's so dumb that I can't take anything seriously. And everybody says, oh, you know, when you watch a few episodes, you get past the fact that that's... No, you never get past the fact that there's some kids in doggy style. That's the whole plot. How can you get past that? Every episode that they're in the suits, there's some kids in doggy style, and that's dumb. Like, it's fine. Like, having the whole male-female pairs to start off with kind of bothers me. I don't know. Maybe
every girl cannot function without a guy. You know this.
It's just...
You know this.
I don't use a term that's heteronormative a lot, because I usually don't care about that sort of thing. But to me, I mean, it's Japan.
It's Japan.
Gays
don't exist in Japan.
But it's something about the fact that you have these little kids and you're essentially conditioning them to be, like, in this weird mating position all the time is a little weird to me. And I can't get past that, honestly. So, I don't like Darling in the Franxx, which sucks, because I love mech anime and I love sci-fi anime, and, you know, I think the animation is cute and pretty or whatever, but no, I can't do Darling in the Franxx. It's just dumb, and everybody seems to love it, and I see GIFs of it everywhere, and the GIFs are always really cool, but I'm like, no, as soon as I watch it, there's going to be kids doing doggy style, and I'm not about that, so I don't like that one. I never watched some of the longer ones, basically the same thing that you were saying. They're too imposing for me. I don't want to watch a 500-episode anime. I just don't. I can handle about 50 episodes. If it's a really, really good series, I might make it through 100 episodes, which would be about 4 seasons. I can make it through 4 seasons of a show, but that's about it. So, I guess those are the ones that... I mean, and I feel like the people that I hung out with had a different impression of what good anime is, as opposed to, like, I don't know, maybe the majority of some people, or at least had a different interpretation of what good genres were. Maybe genre is better than anime, because my friends tended to like sort of high school slice of lifey anime like Ouran, and I never liked those genres in general. But my friend really liked Ouran. I think Ouran is garbage. I don't like Ouran. I think it's super boring, and I don't think the jokes are funny, especially in the dub. Maybe the subtitles are funnier, but it's just always really dumb, cheesy comments, and I don't know, I don't like things that are... Ori Monogatari is weird for me because I typically don't like high school anime, but I like Ori Monogatari. So, I guess just any high school anime, I'm just like, no, like Haruhi, Suzumiya, or whatever, I just don't like anything set in high schools, typically.
Especially Japanese high schools that we never went to.
Right, because a lot of stuff just culturally doesn't translate, and I've watched enough anime to get like, oh, they're doing this because this, and like, oh, sports clubs are mandatory or whatever, but it's sort of like, I don't know, I don't relate, I guess. But yeah, probably my biggest one would be Attack on Titan. I don't like Attack on Titan. I think a lot of people there was this huge flux of people when it was a new thing and a new anime where even people who typically don't like anime started really liking Attack on Titan for some reason, and I think that's dropped off a lot now anyway. Like, I hardly hear about it. I don't like sports animes in general, so I know a lot of people freak out about stuff like Haikyuu or whatever, the swimming anime, I think. I know a lot of people love those ones, and I just don't care about sports
like
animes.
King of Tennis or something like that.
What's the new one? The one about the skater, the ice skater, the figure skater.
Yuri on Ice?
Yeah, like, I guess I never watched it, so I can't say I don't like it, but I've also never had any interest in watching it just because...
I kind of like some of them, but they also follow very same formulas most of the time, the sports ones.
Yeah.
But I want to watch the football one. The American football anime, which is over the top in every way because it's American football.
Was that iShield 21 or something?
I don't know.
I think iShield.
I don't know what the name of it is.
But yeah, I don't know. I can't say I don't like them because honestly I don't give them a shot because of what you said. It's formulaic. It's gonna be, oh no, can we win? And then, well, yeah, obviously you can win. You're the protagonist. So, I think those are it. I mean, I don't know if you want to consider Voltron Legendary Defender an anime or not. It's a Western thing by DreamWorks, but it's in the style and adopts some tropes of Japanese anime.
Well, it's based kind of on the original Voltron, which was Japanese anime.
And it's based on the original Voltron, which is it was okay. It wasn't as good as everybody says it is. I don't see how people think it's like the best thing ever. I think the deal was, a lot of people who liked Voltron, from what I saw online, would say, oh, if you like Voltron, you should check out Gundam 00. They have similar themes. Okay, that's not really true. They barely have similar... They're giant robots in space. That's the only way it's similar. I don't get what they're talking about. There's nothing about colonialism in Voltron or anything like that. There's nothing about jihad in Voltron.
What? You don't know the holy struggle of Voltron?
So, I don't know. I guess it doesn't translate backwards. I feel like I understand why if you liked Voltron and you wanted more out of it, you wanted something darker and more adult out of it than you would like 00. It does not work the other way. There were some funny jokes and stuff, I guess, in Voltron, and because it was an American series and not a Japanese series, obviously they didn't have to localize it, so all the jokes they made worked for an American audience, so I appreciated that. You know, it wasn't like some weird Japanese joke that just doesn't carry over very well to an American audience. You know, you just dub it straight and it makes no sense or whatever. So I appreciated that, but I mean, the animation was fantastic because, of course, it's DreamWorks, and DreamWorks does animation really well. My favorite animated movies from childhood were DreamWorks movies, not Disney movies.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it was just empty, you know? It had pacing issues. Like, it felt like no time would ever pass because one episode would end, and at the very beginning of the next episode, they would be literally just leaving the planet that they were on in the previous episode. So there was no time passage at all in between episodes, except for like, oh, a character goes missing and he comes back and he had buzz cut hair and now it's like down past his shoulders. And it's like, that doesn't happen except for like for 2 years. He was not gone for 2 years. So I never understand. And they talk about, oh, he'd been away from home for so long. I'm like, it's been like a week. I don't understand.
Or the most egregious example when they're going into basically what's a a wormhole, and Keith just outright says, "It's been 2 years."
It's been 2 years. Like, thanks, Keith, because honestly, I wouldn't have been able to tell because he looks identical. He doesn't look any different. Like, they don't make any changes to his character design. Like, the one guy, his hair got longer. Like, well, why didn't Keith's?
But I do get that for him it was, but everyone else it wasn't, because it was basically like going into a black hole.
Right, he was in, like, the event horizon.
But it's just funny that they have this sort of clip montage of them passing time, and he just comes out straight up, says, "It's been 2 years."
As soon as the dialogueless montage is over, he just says, "It's been 2 years, I can't believe it," or something like that. But yeah, Voltron had huge pacing issues. You never had a good sense of the passage of time, whether it was or wasn't passing, essentially. And it just felt empty. There were a few times maybe where I felt like, oh, maybe they won't make it out of this, but in general, I never felt that way. You always knew that none of the main characters were gonna die. I just had a really huge issue with the fact that the pilots of the Red and Blue Lions ended up not piloting the Red and Blue Lions anymore. I feel like I never really understood that part. Like, why make them pilot the Red and Blue Lions in the first place then? I guess that never made sense to me. I don't know if that happens. I can't say as what happens in the original Voltron. I never saw it. Maybe that happens. But I feel like their reasonings were not good. I don't know. It's just everybody does a shuffle and ends up piloting a different lion than what they originally signed. And it's like, if that happens, I wish they would have at least changed flight suits, because I would hate when they would go in a lion and all the lighting would be like red, but they wouldn't be wearing the red like flight suit. That just bothered me, and that has nothing to do with like my rating or assessment of the show at large, but that bothered me. So I don't know, it was okay. I watched all of it. I've even watched the new one that came out. It's a fast watch. If you need a way to kill an afternoon, you can pretty much knock it out in a day. But it's not good. It's not as good as everybody makes it seem, and to be fair, I think that a lot of people who I've seen reviewing it have been younger teenagers. I'm not a teenager anymore, so maybe I just expect more out of a series.
What, Voltron?
Voltron, Legendary Defender.
Kids reviewing Voltron?
I think it's more teenagers. I
don't know. I mean, we were in the grocery store and I saw that middle-aged man wearing Voltron Legendary Defender shirt.
Well, and see, I can see how people who were kids when the original Voltron was still airing would have checked it out because, oh, I love Voltron, and like, to be fair, if something that aired when I was a kid got a new series with modern animation and, you know, a big budget came out, I'd be the first in line to watch it, even if it was crap, and I'd probably rate it higher for nostalgia factor. But as somebody who's never seen the original Japanese Voltron, I don't have that nostalgia factor, so I can only rate it based on Legendary Defender. And Legendary Defender is, I'd give it like a 5. It's average. There's nothing really wrong with it. It's perfect if you're a teenager, I think. I'm just not anymore. And I think I just like different things than when I was 15 and was just like, omegers to hot boys. So.
To hot boys and Pidge.
I do like Pidge, I will say. I relate to Pidge. The fact that she couldn't even reach the pedals in one of the lions is something I relate to as a short girl myself. So, I guess those are the ones that I've seen that a lot of people like that I'm just kind of meh about or straight up don't like.
I think my... Hello, Lila. I don't know, I was thinking about it. I guess the only real guilty pleasure anime that I would have would be Clanad. The one where I'm like completely... It's not good, and yet people think it's good, so it fits that category as well. It's, again, visual novel anime, but that follows the... It touches on, oh, he could possibly get with this person, and he could possibly get with this person. It's a harem anime, essentially, except there's no actual harem. It's a... not harem anime, a dating anime. It was a dating visual novel, essentially, where in high school, of course, and the kid's like, there's all these other girls in this high school, etc., etc. The only redeemable thing about that anime, and maybe even about the visual novel, but I never watched, played, read it, was the after story. You believe the girls have prey eyes, and you are absolutely right.
And we're using the spelling Prey, like the opposite of predator. if you look at the characters in this content, the females have their eyes like on the sides of their heads. Now, if you look at a predator like a human or a tiger or, you know, anything that eats meat, they have their eyes in the front so that they can do the hunting. Humans have this configuration typically. If you look at a person, their eyes are in the front of their face. Okay, now if you look at something that gets eaten by a predator like a cow or a deer, they have their eyes on the side. This helps them look out for predators. If you look at the girls in Clannad, they have their eyes on the side. So every time I look at the girls in this series, all I can see are cows because they have their eyes, these huge freaking anime eyes, on the side of their head, and I hate it. I hate it.
Yeah, cow eyes is another term that you used. It's just funny because the guys don't. The guys look like generic anime, you know, normal. They have eyes that are normal. But suddenly the girls have these massive ovals on the sides of their heads that, yeah, and I swear it's not all of them, but I'm struggling to come up with an example of one that wasn't. So it has a whole bunch of tropes that I hate, including small, cutesy child. They're in high school. They're all supposed to be high school aged and act high school aged, except for one of them, which is apparently in their high school, that acts like they are 3 and is of small child size, acts like they're 3, throws actual tantrums like a toddler. It was like a 3-episode arc that had no purpose being in there. It's like you could have gotten rid of it. And its whole purpose was to make you have some feels, except I was kind of annoyed the entire time. But the whole guilty pleasure part comes in the after story, which is kind of like a season 2, but not really. It follows. It's about 16 or so. I don't know. It's a number of episodes, or maybe an OVA, or a short bit, where it follows the life of protagonist and the sickly girl that he was obviously going to end up with the entire time. After high school, where they've all graduated and they're moving on. Well, they're having a child and she dies. I'm not going to spoil it because everyone is not going to watch this anyway. I would not recommend watching it. But she dies in childbirth, and it's basically him falling apart because of it. And it actually, when you remove prey eyes from the equation and you have father of newborn falling apart because his wife died in childbirth and just him spiraling into depression, it actually got to me. It was actually kind of tear-inducing almost. I kind of got choked up watching him. And so I wouldn't recommend watching the anime just to get to that point. It's not worth your time to just get to that, but it was, out of everything, something that I know is objectively bad, and despite what some people will tell you, it is objectively bad anime. It's just not anything more than mediocre. It's not anything more than normal. This plot-wise, story-wise, writing is a normal. It's just normal. Something that people who like anime will enjoy, but yeah, anime written for anime watchers. But not anime that I would ever recommend to someone who's not watched anime.
Mid-2000s anime watchers too.
Mid-2000s anime, just
I feel,
normal.
Based on just the more modern, like in the past 5 years, anime that I've seen.
Things have gotten a lot better. There's a lot more money in it.
It's less tropey. There's more of an actual plot as opposed to just, here's the same shots that we have in every anime. Here's the girl clutching her fist to her chest and going,
well,
and here's the boy posing like he has to do something.
We still have anime for the sake of people who watch anime, but because there's a lot more money in it, there's studios with more money now. It's like we've gotten back into the 80s Renaissance.
Yeah.
Where, sure, there's still normal trash for normal anime watchers, and yet you also have art pieces.
Right.
You actually have good story writing.
So, yeah, I agree for sure.
But, yeah, I don't know. I guess that's as close as I can come to a guilty pleasure anime. Because I enjoyed it, but I enjoyed it for the ending. I got through it only because it's like, okay, I've spent this much time in it. I want to see how it ends. Even though that arc with that little girl almost made me drop it completely. I will be honest, Gurren Lagann is one of the classics. It is one of... I enjoyed it, but there was this, like, several episodes where main protagonist is crying because so-and-so is dead. And he won't grow a pair. It's like things are going to shit because of his crying. And I almost shut it off because I can't deal with whatever crap he was putting out. It's like, it's bad enough he's a little kid with very little self-worth almost. Like, very little self-esteem. And the guy who died is basically the guy that gave him his self-esteem. And so I get it. But also, sniveling little kid is one of the things that I can't continue with. And it's like I almost dropped it there because of that guy, because of that character. And he's the protagonist as well. So it's like most of the anime focuses around him. And so you see for most of the episode shit going down, but he's just being a sniveling crybaby because so-and-so's dead, which I get, but also I hate it. You know?
Right.
It's like, I get it, this guy died, but no. No, this isn't good watching. Which is kind of, I guess, gets back to your criticisms of Attack on Titan, where I get it, no one is ever traumatized by what's going on, but also if they were, it wouldn't be good watching.
Right, exactly. It's a hard balance, I think, to strike to make it realistic enough that you say, okay, I can see where at least they were affected by it, but that, okay, if you spend every episode crying, then nothing happens.
But I guess the big problem is they could have had at least one person go, nope, I'm done.
Yeah.
And no one did, really.
Really, yeah. What was your first anime? Discounting Pokemon, because that was most people's first anime.
But that was the first. I have no idea. What my first anime? I mean, gosh, you're talking about ages ago. The first one I remember, I mean, we're talking about...
The early 90s?
No, actually, because we... remember, I was living in Europe until 98.
Yeah.
I was living in Germany until I was a while. Pretty old. Shoot, I have no idea. My first anime, I mean, we're talking about... The first things I remember, anyway, would be Dragon Ball Z, Gundam Wing, Tenchi Muyo, stuff that appeared on Toonami around 2000, 1999, 1998. That's the earliest I remember watching anime. My earliest experience to it, obviously not including Pokemon, but actually Pokemon was around that same time.
Yeah.
So...
And those came right before, like, Yu Yu Hakusho and...
Well, Yu Yu Hakusho, I was exposed to it after that. I believe, in high school when those started to come on.
Yeah, I think Toonami acquired those pretty much several years after they originally
Yeah.
aired in Japan.
Yeah,
so.
but they acquired a lot of stuff after. But Yu Yu Hakusho and
Rurouni Kenshin.
Rurouni Kenshin, those came on. I was probably... Yeah, I was older. Those probably cemented it. Rurouni Kenshin. I watched some Yu Yu Hakusho, but I never really got into it. Of course, Inuyasha started around that time and never left Toonami for the next decade. I'm fairly certain it was never on rerun. It was just they were just playing all 5 bazillion episodes of it.
No, I definitely saw reruns because I remember distinctively I would see the same episode over and over. It was just like one episode that they always aired.
I know, I'm being facetious. Yeah, just Gundam Wing, Dragon Ball Z, a little bit of Tenshin Muyo. After that is when I actually had friends that watched anime, so I would watch more anime. That was probably my first exposure to it. So, because I don't remember anything. I'm fairly certain anime did not come on the Armed Forces Network when I was a kid.
The first anime I watched that I actually realized was a different kind of cartoon than, Western stuff. The first time I realized this doesn't look like Hey Arnold or SpongeBob was Zoid's New Century Zero. That one would be on TV whenever I'd get home from elementary school. That was the first time I learned that there is Japanese animation, basically. Of course, I didn't know where it came from back then, but I could tell that, this just looks different. There's a different style to it. And to me, a child of the 90s who was used to pretty crappy animation on TV, like even Western stuff, really just wasn't that good yet. I always thought Zoid's New Century Zero was really well animated, and maybe not the people, but I'm pretty sure the Zoids were actually computer-generated models, and I'm pretty sure that's how they got the really smooth movement. And I don't remember that so much on 90s Western cartoons back then. I don't think they'd really incorporated that yet. At least not noticeably so. But Zoid's New Century Zero was the tournament-style battle one with Lager Zero. So that was my first anime, but that was only a year or so before Yu-Gi-Oh! So I think I think that Zoids came first, but it's really close for me in my memory as to which came first, but I'm pretty sure Zoids, and then like a year or so later, Yu-Gi-Oh! So those were my first. And I never actually watched Pokemon. Like, I'd see a few episodes here and there, and I saw the movies and Pokemon 2000, everybody loves that one, but I really never made an effort to watch Pokemon. Pokemon was just something that I had to sit through until the show I actually wanted to see came on. So, and I never watched a lot of the ones that came on. I'm pretty sure I saw some Sailor Moon before I saw Zoids, but I'm pretty sure I did not recognize Sailor Moon as anime.
What?
And I don't think I ever watched it because I would have been like 3. So I actually think I was not allowed to watch Sailor Moon. I think I was like, sometime at 3, between when I was like 3 to 6 maybe. It was before I was really in school, or at the very latest it was when I was in kindergarten. And I feel like the episode that I watched, I feel like I remember my parents saying something like, this is too scary for you, don't watch it, because there was, like, they were fighting a monster or a bad guy or something. And I was more Blue's Clues age and less Sailor Moon age, so. But yeah, Zoids is my, I'm pretty sure my first one. I never really saw Chaotic Century, but I was aware of its existence.
Yeah. Alright, well, we're pushing 3 hours.
We are.
I'm fairly certain we should not have pushed 3 hours.
I'd say we could edit it, but we probably won't.
Nope, not gonna do that. Alright, well, I think that'll be it for now. Thanks for sticking around. I doubt you did stick around, but if you have, thanks.
If you have, I'm sorry.
Very, very sorry about Sal's tendency to just keep rambling on.
Oh, yeah, it's just mine.
It's
just mine.
Yeah.
Just my tendency.
Yeah. Absolutely. Alrighty. Take care. Have fun.
Bye-bye.
See you next time.